Good evening, I'm Paul Offodds, and it's time for your Royals postseason report. The Royals have not yet played as of this recording, but they did beat the Yankees Tuesday night. The Guardians beat the White Sox again to complete their sweep, and as of this recording, the Royals are 4 games back of the Guardians for the division lead, and now 2.5 games ahead of the Twins for second in the division and for the second wild card. As of this recording, here are your Kansas City Royals playoff odds. Ball reference, 96.8%. Baseball prospectus, 96.1%. And Fangraphs, 96.3%, with 12.5% odds to win the division. Their magic number for the final wildcard berth is 11. We now return you to your regularly scheduled Royals Rundown podcast.
October baseball, I can smell it on the horizon. That's not how you do things on the horizon, but I do. Welcome to the Royals Rundown
Smells
podcast.
like stale beer and peanut shells.
Let's go. Let's go. Welcome to the Royals Rundown podcast. I am Jacob Milham. Thank you so much, Paul, for setting the table. Jeremy, Paul's pretty good at his job, isn't he?
I like Paul. We should keep him around next year, maybe.
Yeah, hopefully so. You know, a friend of the podcast, Preston Farr, did predict at the end of last season that the Royals would be competing for the division in 2025. Little did he know that Seth Lugo was coming and Tommy Pham would be leading the charge.
He might be right. They might be competing for the division in 2025 too. I would not be surprised.
I wouldn't be surprised either. But here we are in 2024, and they're doing the same thing. It's not a great shot. It's not probable, but it's not impossible either. Jeremy, though, for our listeners, we are recording this on Wednesday afternoon, a few hours ahead of the first pitch in the series finale against the New York Yankees.
Yankees! I don't know why I did that.
Hey, listen, it works. So, Jeremy, this has been a very the series has been just 2 completely different tales. Right? Absolute blowout loss on Monday, followed by a dominant pitching performance on Tuesday to secure the win.
Hey, can I just interject and say that I don't qualify Monday's loss as a blowout loss.
Really?
And let me tell you why. Because it was a close game until they said, we lost this one. Just go ahead and give up a whole bunch of runs, Mr. Chris Stratton.
Yeah, that was the final nail in the coffin for the Royals in that one. That Mariners comeback has just ruined me on any Royals deficit, because I'm like, maybe they could do it. Maybe they got it in them tonight to come back. But alas, here we are. So, Jeremy, before we get too deep into it, I think the Royals are going to win tonight. Do you agree? Going up against Luis Hill.
I gotta always feel good when Cole Reagan's, a.k.a. the Coltrane, on the mound. Luis Hill actually is how it's pronounced. I discovered while listening to the post game last night. Luis Hill is a very good pitcher for the Yankees, but he hasn't been as good lately. And the Royals offense right now, I know that there's a lot of angst because they haven't had like just a dominant offensive performance, but what they have done is like be very consistently 4 or 5 runs, no matter who the opposing pitcher is. And so I'm like, all right, if we're going to get 4 or 5 runs, no matter who's pitching, whether it's Marcus Stroman or Carlos Rodon, which apparently I told you how to pronounce that one wrong too. My bad.
That's all good.
Or Luis Hill, then I feel good about Cole Reagan's probably not giving up more runs than that.
Agreed.
And we should have, Lucas Erceg should be fully available tonight. Chris Bubich, maybe. He did pitch last night. They don't always like to go back to back with him. But as our good friend David Lesky, we should have him on sometime.
We should have him on again. It's been
maybe
a while.
Not a good friend, but a person who's really smart about baseball that I read a lot about. As he says, this is the sprint, so it's time to really push those boundaries. So I would think that Bubich would be available tonight. Lynch should be available tonight.
Should be, yeah.
Long, probably not available. Hopefully because he went more than 1 inning last night, or was it 2 nights ago? If it was 2 nights ago, he might be available tonight. I cannot remember when he pitched.
His last
Oh
outing
no, he did,
was
because
September
Lugo
9th.
went 7 innings last night.
Yep.
So Long should be available tonight too. They should have pretty much everybody, even MacArthur, which that might be a subject for another podcast. Maybe we've already done it too much, but I don't think he was bad Monday. He wasn't great. He obviously wasn't good enough, but he wasn't bad. And we don't need to go into the details, but yeah. So Cole Reagans, to go back to the question you were actually asking, Cole Reagans pitching tonight. The bullpen feels like it's fully loaded, ready to go. I feel good about what the offense can do tonight, especially because, man, Adam Frazier, they found a way to get his bat back in the lineup. Designated hitter, batting 7th. That's going to pay off big time.
I can't believe they're doing that. But
I mean, when you've got an opportunity to just put any hitter on your team in the lineup because it's a designated hitter spot, and you've got to do Adam Frazier, I think, every time.
Every single time. Yeah, a lefty heavy lineup tonight going up against Luis Gil. Jeremy, we've touched on this in the past on the podcast, but you're talking about the I think the offense is going to do just enough tonight for the Royals to win. And I feel confident with Reagans on the mound as well. When the Royals opponents score 3 runs or less, which is like a quality start plus a shutout performance from the bullpen, the Royals are 65-7 this season. It's pretty good.
That almost coincides exactly with the stat I gave last time, which was when the Royals give up 3 runs or fewer. I think that's an identical, but no, it's a different stat, but the number's the same. Which is interesting. So basically, what I'm hearing now is that if the rotation gives you a quality start, the bullpen pitches well.
Yep, pretty much.
That's something I got to dig into, because I would think that I had said at one point that I felt like the bullpen, when given a big lead, pitches well. But if you're going to sit here and look me in my face and tell me that as long as the starting rotation gets a quality start, the bullpen locks it down, that is a very interesting thing to look at going forward, and to look at for, can they succeed in the postseason?
Yeah, that it is. I do want to say, just to hedge my bets, the Royals trends this year that are a little concerning for tonight's game. In the rubber games, they are 4-12 on the season. Not a great record there. And also on their getaway days, which today is, they are traveling to Pittsburgh, and they have an off day there in Pittsburgh before a weekend series against the Pirates. On their getaway days, they are 18-15. So still a winning record, but not something to go rah-rah about. Yeah, I think they're going to win tonight. I think it's going to be this
is not one of those games where it's like, oh, they're definitely going to win, but it is one of those games where it's like, yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised at all if they do win.
And I think it is going to be interesting to see, hey, is this a AL wildcard preview? Because frankly, the New York Yankees and the Baltimore Orioles, they are still neck and neck for that AL East crown. The Orioles have a .568 winning percentage. The Yankees have a .572. So if the Yankees don't win the AL East, they will likely end up as the 4 seed, which would place them against the current 5 seed, the Kansas City Royals.
Right. Yeah.
We knew the blueprint when they faced off in Kauffman Stadium. However, just the bats were not performing. Now we are seeing the bats at least be average, be slightly above average. So how are you feeling any different about if these two teams match up in the postseason? Like, do you think the Royals could get it done?
The interesting thing to me is that if we see these two teams match up in the postseason, the pitching matchups are going to be very different than what we've seen here.
Yes.
We're going to see Seth Lugo go in game 1, Cole Reagans in game 2. Maybe you flip those. And then I think you see Michael Wacha in game 3. Though you might see Brady Singer. Marcus Stroman is not going to appear for the Yankees in a short playoff series. He may be there. He may be in the bullpen for the entire playoff run.
Yeah.
And then Rodon is probably, if I'm remembering correctly, it probably goes Garrett Cole, who the Royals didn't have to face this series.
Yeah.
And then Luis Gil, and then maybe Rodon. I'm not sure who the other starter is off the top of my head.
Well, I wouldn't say they've been inconsistent in the rotation. There have been a litany of injuries in that rotation. So yeah, I don't have to commit.
So then you've got we've got this series that has been what it has been, and we saw kind of our worst playoff guy go yesterday or Monday, and it didn't go well. And then the Yankees sent their guy out who's probably not in the playoff rotation or is the fourth guy.
Yeah.
And that didn't go well. So tonight would be kind of a more interesting match because that might be like a game 2 match of Cole Ragans versus Luis Gil with a game 1 match of Lugo versus Garrett Cole.
Right.
Their own Cole train.
Yes. They're
So I don't think you can take a long road to a short thought, as Seth Kaiser is always saying, and as I should probably say more often. The pitching matchups we've seen aren't realistic towards what we'll see in the postseason. The bullpen will also be used differently. Chris Stratton will not pitch in the 9th inning of a playoff game.
No.
He might pitch in the 12th or 13th inning. Like you're like, crap, we've run out of relievers. Now what do we do?
Well, I would consider some other options before going to Chris Stratton. Maybe that's where you plug in Adam Frazier. Maybe that's where his role is on the postseason roster.
Garrett Hampson threw a scoreless inning at one point this year.
He did. So he can get the job done too. I'm very much looking forward to tonight's game and predicting that no matter the result, the reactions are just going to be over the planet moon, to steal a line from friend of the podcast, Lux. Royal social media was bad on Monday. And I get it. That was a frustrating loss, but that was probably the worst I've seen this sphere like this season. Sure. All in all, the Royals, despite a 7-game losing streak, they're 28-21 since the All-Star break. All right, that is insane to me.
As I was telling you before we started recording, this span of 20 games, the gauntlet part 2, as I like to call it. I originally predicted they were going to go 8-12. And I worried that they could go as bad as kind of 6-14.
Yeah.
And I was like, if they go 6-14, like that hurts, but it's not the end of the world. If they go 8-12, I feel like you got to feel pretty good about that. And if the Royals lose tonight, they will have gone 9-11, if I've done my math correctly.
That is correct.
So better than my quote unquote best case scenario. If they win tonight, they would go 10-10. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah, they would go 10-10.
900 against a whole bunch of first place teams.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. Obviously, you would love to win more of those games. You always want to win more games. But if you say, all right, we're going into a playoff series, we're not guaranteed to lose. No one's saying, these guys, they're done.
Yeah.
Because, they played 500 against all the other first place teams on the road quite frequently.
Yeah,
they were at Houston, at Cleveland, at New York. They did have the Phillies at home, but they wouldn't see them till the World Series.
Exactly. So outside of that Houston series, which was just, as we get away from that, I do think it was a perfect storm of things in the locker room, and it just really, sometimes you just get knocked off your feet so hard, it takes a little while to get back up on them.
And Framber Valdez and Yusei Kikuchi were not, as Rex likes to say, they didn't have any sympathy cards for the Royals. No. They were like, you guys are reeling a little bit, I'm going to come at you with some haymakers now. Exactly. They were not giving any ground, they were not giving any breaks. They were like, I'm going to take everything I can from you while you're reeling.
It's a good time to be a Royals fan. I've said that over and over again because it is still true.
Yeah, I just want to add on to that real quick, that idea of it's a good time to be a Royals fan. It is a good time to be a Royals fan. They're going to the playoffs this year. Yep. That's all you can ever ask for. Who knows what'll happen once you get there, but you're going. And then here's the great part, Jacob. Here's the part that makes it really great to be a Royals fan.
Okay.
Is they could be better next year. They should be better in 2 years.
Wow.
When Blake Mitchell and Jack Caglione are ready to be added to this lineup. And Noah Cameron should be coming up. And we have Kyle Wright maybe next year. And Chris Bubich could move back into the bullpen. And they have more chances to kind of figure out what they're doing with their bullpen management.
Hope springs eternal for this franchise right now. Just like what Preston was saying, because even in the 106 loss season, we can kind of squint our eyes and see, okay, I can see the path to this team competing in about 2 years. It seems like this team is about a year ahead of schedule, and that's not just from the fans' perspective, but also from the organization's perspective. I don't think they were, and granted, you can't bet on this massive of an improvement. I don't have the number in front of me.
I did, but you shouldn't have. If you bet real money on it, I wouldn't recommend it. I did it with fake money.
Yeah, fake money is where it is at. All in all, the Royals are the most improved team in baseball this year by wins and losses, and one of the most improved in league history. All right, this is an amazing turnaround. And
I think they're getting ready to set the record for the most wins following a 100 loss season. So not the most wins, most increase in wins ever, but the biggest increase in wins for any team that lost at least 100 the year before.
Mm-hmm. So here we go. Let's see here. And their pace, so they're currently on an 88 win pace, which would be 32 more than they had last season, which would be the third best improvement since 1961, trailing only the 99 Diamondbacks, who went from 65 wins to 100, and the 89 Orioles, who went from 54 wins to 87. So it's decent company to be in. I like it. Let's go ahead and talk some more about. Wow, I had it in my head, Jeremy. There's something you were going to ask me about, and
yeah. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about Brady Singer. I know we've talked a lot about Brady Singer this year, but I thought now might be a good time to try and come to a little bit of a summarization. Of Brady Singer, and so. Yeah, I guess you had mentioned that you were kind of sharing some thoughts on the radio earlier today. Was that a call-in, or was that they had you as a guest thing?
They had me as a guest.
Are you a friend?
Let me take my victory lap real quick, Jeremy. I am officially a friend of the show with Carrington Harrison.
Now you got to get me in there, Jacob. Come on, buddy.
Listen, every time I get on there, I name drop you. I do.
I appreciate it.
Plus, I'm going to have more opportunities to do so because every Wednesday at 2:30 Central Time, I will be on the show with C-Dot.
A standing appointment.
Oh,
look at you, fancy boy. We should have been talking about that. Forget the Royals for a second. That's how we should have been starting the podcast.
Yeah, I was really burying the lead there.
That is so cool, Jacob. I'm so proud of you. I'm so happy for you. You've worked hard to get here, and you deserve that. I'm so excited.
I appreciate that, Jeremy. I really, really do.
You got to what show is this? What station is this? You got to give us the deets, man.
All the deets. So it's with The Drive with Carrington Harrison on 96.5 The Fan, formerly 610 Sports, for those who I think they shifted about a month ago now, but people still get caught up in the name. So yeah, you can catch me there on the Odyssey app, 96.5 The Fan. Also, I think they're still on the AM side. Is
that 2:30 Central or 2:30?
2:30 Central. 2:30 Central. Yeah. I don't trust my work to get me out.
What day of the week is that, you said?
Wednesdays.
Wednesdays at 2:30. You're talking Royals baseball every week. On The Drive. On say the station one more time.
96.5 The Fan.
96.5 The Fan. That is so cool, Jacob. All right, let's talk Brady Singer now.
Yeah. Because so what Carrington proposed was, and I said it on the show, and it still is. It was a doozy of a question. Said the Royals have a 1-run lead, game 1 of the wild card series, and who are you sending out there for the 7, 8, 9 innings? I said Chris Bubich in the 7th.
Sure.
But then that's where I tossed in Brady Singer in the 8th.
Interesting choice.
because that was kind of the reaction that I got from him, and of course Urseg in the ninth. I think that's the no brainer. You can fill in that blank. So, Jeremy, I stole that from you.
I was sure you were going to say Chris Stratton.
No, maybe if the Omaha Storm Chasers need him for the ninth inning, maybe they can trust him with that role. I don't know. So I was blunt with you. I said, hey, I stole this line from you because you were talking about it months ago about Brady moving to the bullpen. And personally, if you look at the guys who are going to be the quote unquote odd men out for starting that third game in the wild card series, because we know it's going to be Reagans, we know it's going to be Lugo, whether it be game 1 or game 2. We know those are set.
Yeah.
Right. But you can see like, oh, well, maybe Waka goes in that third game. Maybe Singer gets that third game. I personally would put Waka to start.
Yeah.
Because I don't like him coming out of the mound. I think he is the guy, or out of the bullpen to the mound. I think he's the guy that you want to get 5-6 good innings from. Not great, but good. And then you pass it off to the bullpen and hope for the best. So that's why I put Brady Singer there. Let's see what that stuff can do coming in a relief role.
I do question one thing there is why is Brady in the 8th and not the 7th when Bubic has the experience in the late inning relief role?
That's absolutely fair. And I think that's viable. I don't have, they're kind of similar options to me. I saw Bubic's name, and for some reason, like matchup popped up in my head. So I could see either one going out for the 7th, depending on who is up.
I think that makes a lot of sense. If you're like, I've got Bubic and I've got Singer. Well, but do I have righties coming up or do I have lefties coming up?
Yeah. You gotta take that into account. But back to what you were like, do you agree? Is that would that be a solid outlook?
I said a few weeks ago at this point that my playoff rotation, my top 3 are Lugo, Reagans, and then Waka.
Mm-hmm.
And then my 4th one is going to be matchup dependent, I think.
Yeah.
Which is going to be Singer or Lorenzen. Depending on, is this a lefty heavy team or is this a righty heavy team?
Absolutely.
And if it's more even, I'm still probably leaning towards Lorenzen. But I want to make it clear that this isn't Brady Singer slander. No, I've been very hard on Brady Singer, but I do want to pull back on that a little bit and say, listen, the dude is a solid middle of the rotation starter with, I think, some obvious flaws, especially in terms of left-handed hitters, but he has value as a starter long-term. I think that is obvious after this year in a way where I was ready to move him to the bullpen before the season started. That said, also don't hate the idea of giving Bubic his rotation spot next year. I don't think Singer should walk into spring training and say, I have a rotation spot. I think he should walk in and say, I probably have a rotation spot, but if I don't show what I need to show and Chris Bubic and Kyle Wright do, then maybe I need to be in the bullpen.
Maybe so.
So I think that he has potential as an elite bullpen arm because we've seen him just absolutely dazzle hitters with that sinker slider combo, but he can't do it. Like, even when he's pitching well, he wasn't pitching poorly in New York on Monday, but he could only go 5 innings. So if I can look at a Kyle Wright, I can look at a Chris Bubic, and I can go, well, they can probably go 6, maybe 7. And Bubic, and I'm looking at Singer, and I'm like, well, he's got 5 for me, but only maybe 6, probably not more than that.
Right.
And I know he had the year 2022, I think it was, when he was like nails 7 innings all the time.
He was, he had that good stretch.
I've not seen that version of Brady Singer this year, even as good as he's been. So I would want to give the priority in the starting rotation to the guys that I trust to go a little bit further.
Okay.
And so I think that there is room to say that Brady Singer is not an ace. He's just not. Sorry. But he is a good pitcher. And whether that's as a middle to the back end of rotation guy or as an elite setup guy or a closer, think that, and I've also criticized his attitude in the past.
Mhm.
And I admit, I said at the time that I don't really know. This is just an impression that I get. And I've been right in other times when I've gotten impressions about guys like that. I want to pull back on that too and say that as I've learned more about him, he had an interview during one of the games over the weekend,
Yeah,
an
the Apple
in-game
TV
interview.
one.
I felt like gave like a little different side of himself. And then someone hit a home run and he's like, I got to put the headset down. I got to go hug him. And then I'll
Yeah.
come back and talk. I'm like, that's a good guy. That's a nice guy. I was probably reading too much into some stuff. So I do want to put that out there and apologize and say Brady Singer, probably not the attitude problem that I once thought he was. And I'll be frank, I've been right times, I've been wrong at times. I also wondered if Bobby Witt Jr. might have kind of an attitude problem until I realized that the dude was just kind of a little aloof. He's a little bit of an introvert. He's not he's not like Vinny Pasquantino where he wants to talk all day, every day about anything. And I love that about Vinny, but like there's room for Bobbies and Brady's too, who just want to go out there and do their job. And they want to hang out with their friends, but they don't necessarily, like, I'm an introvert. So I don't want to hate on guys who are maybe introverted a little bit. So that's on me. That's something I got to work on maybe a little bit of not judging guys just because they're not as gregarious as other guys.
There you go. And yeah, that is at the end of the day, we have a very, I think the word is limited perspective.
Always will.
Yeah, always will. And that's okay. We'll admit when the facts change, so do our opinions, believe it or not.
Yeah, that's how it's supposed to work.
Yep. All right, moving on. I'm not gonna look towards the Pirates too much this
Probably
coming
no
weekend.
Paul Skeens, that's a good thing.
Yes.
As much as it would have been fun to see Paul Skeens pitch, let's watch Paul Skeens pitch early next season when every win doesn't feel like the end of the world.
I will say though, they are on a 4-game winning streak right now. Like they're not back in the NL wildcard picture at all. They're still sitting at 70 and 76.
Well, that just means they're ripe to fall again.
Yes, exactly. And the Royals will go and chop them down in PNC Park. Just a gorgeous ballpark. I really want to go visit there. It looks so amazing there. All right. Speaking of the East Coast, we do need to talk about the shifting MVP narrative.
Yes.
Is how I put this.
The national picture has been really fascinating to me over the last week with guys a lot of national guys. These are not local guys with their royal colored glasses on.
Yep.
These are national guys who are like, I don't know, maybe Bobby should win it. That's what they're saying out there.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead and say what you want to say, and then I have some stuff to throw at you.
Well, no, and I'm gonna have the homer take real quick because there are some undeniable things. Number one, Bobby Witt Jr. is probably not. We knew he was going to be great and very good, at least. We didn't think he was going to be this great though this season. Like this is a very surprising MVP season. Aaron Judge, I'm sorry, folks kind of expected something on this level from him. They expected him to be a top 5 guy in the American League at the very least. Anything outside of that would have been a massive disappointment. If you like, there's so many metrics I can point to and say, this is how Bobby's better. This is why Bobby's more valuable. Just a few that I want to toss out there. Number one, Bobby leads Judge in FWAR as of right now. Granted, it's a slim margin, 9.6 for Bobby and 9.5 for Judge. But Bobby's already set the Royals record in that metric. Even George Brett surpassed him already in his MVP season. Go look at outs above average, which is, we can all talk about defensive metrics till we're blue in the face, but it seems like that's the one that MLB is running with right now because it's theirs. 18 outs above average this season, leading all shortstops, and I think tied or is third in all of baseball. Bobby Witt Jr. is such a complete player. Aaron Judge does have his flaws. Like I'm sorry, you can't toss him out in center field in Kauffman Stadium and expect him to play a competent center field. All right,
he would not be a center fielder in the AL Central anywhere in the AL Central.
No, it's only in New York is where he can fit in there. for lack of better terms. It is, I don't know. I think it's going to come down to media bias. I really do. There's something to be said about that.
Good news for you there too.
Okay, what you got?
All right, so the first thing is that I saw a segment on MLB Network today that went on Twitter that was like,
okay,
who if they were asking Al Leiter, the legendary pitcher, who do you want? Like, who do you want behind you? Sure, Aaron Judge can hit, but Bobby can hit almost as well, and he plays a much better defense, and he runs the bases much better. Like, who do you want if you could have either of them on your team? And it's like, well, and Bobby's played every game.
Yes.
Judge has days off. He has days where he DHs. Bobby's DH'd one time all year.
This is crazy.
Probably should DH a little bit more than that.
Probably so.
That's where we're at. Another interesting thing is that I think when Judge's case was being considered as like locked up, like nobody can catch him, there was an assumption that he was going to hit 60 home runs.
Yeah.
He is not going to hit 60 home runs.
No.
He has 16 games remaining. He has 51 home runs. It would take an otherworldly home run tear for him to hit 60 home runs. It's not going to happen.
No.
Not in this universe. So that takes like one of his things that he could claim and be like, back-to-back 60 home run seasons. Who does that? Sammy Sosa and Barry Bonds. Like, that's it. And so he doesn't have that claim to him anymore. And then here's a question for you, Jacob.
Okay.
But I want you to think about it. I want everybody to think about this for a second.
Right, let's ponder this.
If you take Aaron Judge off of the Yankees, you take him off the Yankees, you replace him with a competent but not Aaron Judge level player. Are the Yankees still a playoff team? Yes, they are.
Yeah.
Don't think that hard, Jacob.
Come on, I had to think about it.
They are. They're still a play. They still have Juan Soto. They still have Garrett Cole. And you're thinking too hard again. The answer is no. They're not. So I think some media bias can work in the Royals' favor a little bit there, because that, I think, is a question that a lot of voters will ask themselves, is who was more, because we can talk about the stats all day, every day, and then you have all these debates, but a lot of voters, at least historically, have said, well, who's the most valuable for his team? You can't be the MVP if your team isn't a playoff contender. Because if you were most valuable, your team would be in the playoffs. Well, Bobby's so valuable that his team wouldn't be in the playoffs without him.
Yep.
And so I think that works for him. Here's the final thing that I want to go over for you. Since September started, here's a batting line for you. We know Bobby's been in a slump. 6/300/235 for a 535 OPS. Man. That is good for a 54 WRC plus.
Damn.
Only that's not Bobby's slump. That's Judge's slump since the beginning of September. Bobby's slump since the beginning of September is 229/289/371, which doing that math is a little bit harder, but puts him somewhere north of a 600 OPS since September for an 83 WRC plus. And actually, if you go back to just September before the Yankees games, which he has a hit and a run scored in each of them, plus an RBI in another, Bobby had a WRC plus of over 100 in the first 7 games of his slumping September. So yeah, he's slumping, but he's slumping for Bobby. He's not slumping for mere mortals, okay? And meanwhile, over that span, Judge has not yet hit a home run in September. More credence towards the idea that he's not gonna get to 60. He still has not got a single home run in September. Has 2 doubles. Bobby has 2 doubles, and he has a home run.
Wow.
Plus a stolen base.
Yes.
Which Judge does not have. No, I'm wrong. Judge does have a stolen base. He stole one against the Cubs. He has 8 stolen bases this year. My apologies. So their numbers are very similar in some ways, but Bobby is obviously much better. So here's the other thing. We have about 2.5 weeks of baseball left.
Right.
If their slumps maintain at the current pace through the rest of the year, Judge's numbers are going to dive hard from where they were at the beginning of September.
Yeah, that they
Let
are.
me see if I can do this math real quick on what his WRC plus was entering September and what it is now.
Well, while you do that math,
Yeah.
there are some other milestones that Bobby is leading in that puts him in very elite company. Now, it's number one, I loved the Triple Crown race with Miguel Cabrera. I remember that very vividly. That was a very special moment in baseball. I don't think we're ever going to see it again. I really don't. It's rare. Just players don't have all that. I don't know. There's not that perfect player anymore. So I'm not going to go and say that Bobby is a Triple Crown candidate. But when you look at, hey, he's leading, like he has more hits than, Luis Ariz, who we always talk about. Hey, he's a contact first guy. He's great. He's awesome. His batting average is higher than Vladimir Guerrero, who's the second closest. His 120 runs are 5 more than Shohei Ohtani. All right. He's leading in all those metrics right now, and he would just be the 5th player since 1900 to lead the majors in all those 3 categories. And when you get put in the same sentence as guys like Ty Cobb and Rod Carew, that's pretty good company.
Yeah. All right. So I got those numbers pulled up for you.
All right. What you got?
Judge's current season WRC plus is an insane, absolutely insane. Let's be honest with ourselves.
Yes.
It's an absolutely insane 212.
Oh my gosh.
He is worth 2 league average hitters.
Wow. That's crazy.
But it was entering September, it was 222.
Huh.
So he's lost 10 points off his WRC plus in 7 games. Wow. At the end of the season, which is a pretty big drop. That's how bad the slump has been.
Yeah.
Bobby Witt Jr. entering September had a WRC plus of 173, which is also crazy good.
Yes.
Crazy good. Not 200, but very good.
Yeah.
He's dropped all the way to 168. 5 points.
All right.
So half the distance that Judge has dropped. So if they continue slumping, this is not an argument if Bobby gets hot and Judge keeps slumping, not that kind of homer argument. This is an argument that if they keep slumping at their current rates, their final offensive numbers are going to be much more similar than I think anyone would have thought a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, yeah.
And if their offensive numbers are the same, no one argues that Bobby doesn't have better defense and better base running. No one argues that. That would be a stupid argument. As stupid an argument as saying that Judge's home runs don't matter, that he's hit 50 of while Bobby's hit 30. I mean, that's almost twice as many. That's a big deal.
It is.
So none of this guarantees that Bobby is going to win the MVP award, but a couple of weeks ago, everyone was talking. I mean, Brian Henry of Royals Review had a front page article on the SB Nation baseball website that was, in any other year, Bobby would be an MVP, but not this year. At this point, that's not the argument anymore. Judge could still win MVP. He might still even be the favorite to win MVP, but it's not as wide a gap as it was 2 weeks ago, and it could close further before the end of the season.
It could. And right now there's not really like this. I don't know. And this voting process stuff is kind of hard to predict. It really is. Right now we know it's a 2-player race in the American League. There's no question about that.
That's the good thing is if Bobby doesn't win, he's finishing second, which is still pretty cool.
Yeah, it's still very cool.
And I think if you wanted to bet that Bobby Witt Jr. would win an MVP sometime in his career for the Royals while he's under this current contract that he's on, I think you'd win that bet. I think you would get the negative odds if you went on DraftKings and tried to bet that. They'd be like, yeah, you cannot double your money on that one. You can only gain some money.
And I will say I was surprised to see this. MLB.com did an internal poll where they talked to their writers and their folks. Aaron Judge got 31 first place votes for the American League MVP. Bobby got 6.
Oof.
Yeah. So that is surprising. But again, not
that surprising. But again, let's see what it looks like in a couple of weeks.
And I think that's, I don't know. I talked about East
And
Coast
that's
media
also
bias because I've seen it.
another thing to keep an eye on is what happens in the playoffs.
Yeah,
Because the MVP doesn't happen until after the postseason.
that's fair.
If Bobby goes in there and destroys the postseason,
Then
and
maybe
the
that's
Yankees get knocked out early, or Judge doesn't play well, Judge has not historically been terrific in the playoffs. I don't think. Let me check those numbers real quick. If that happens, that could absolutely change the conversation as
Mm-hmm. And I do think it's interesting that we're sitting here on September 11th and we're looking at the top two options in the AL MVP. We have one top guy who's a bat first, really puts the ball over the fence, just electrifying guy. And the second place is a player who can do it all. He just doesn't do it with the same power level as the first place guy. It's the
here's
mirror.
Judge's numbers in the postseason.
Okay.
This is over all of his postseason games,
Which is a lot.
He's played 44 of them.
Yeah. Good enough.
Batting 211, 310, 462 for a 772 OPS. They don't have, you can't really do the league comparison numbers there, but a 772 OPS from Judge, it's not bad, but that's not like he's Superman. He's not Mr. October over here. Okay.
He's not taking over, and there's a reason why the Yankees haven't been to a World Series in a while. What I was going to say is it's the MVP race in the AL is a mirror image in the NL. Right, you have Shohei Ohtani, who is kind of the presumptive NL MVP, but meanwhile you have Francisco Lindor of the New York Mets, who is doing just great stuff in the Big Apple. He really, really is. Set the franchise's single season on base streak Saturday. Hit his 30th homer later on, and he's currently on pace for another 30-30 season with Bobby Witt Jr. So there's a lot of parallels there, and it all depends on what the voters value the most, I think.
The thing that I think is in Ohtani's favor is that while Judge was presumed that he was going to hit 60 home runs again, which would, we haven't seen that in more than a couple decades, I think, and only a handful of times ever, and he's not going to do it. Ohtani looks like he's still ready to go 50-50 for the first time ever.
Whew.
And that's not just for the first time in a while. That's the first time ever, and he's still aiming for it. Like, that's still a real possibility for him in the way that 60 home runs is not still a real possibility for Judge.
Yeah, very true. Very true. So it will be interesting to see how it all breaks down. I'm sure before the voting actually happens, I know we will have end of season awards voting on royalsreview.com. So make sure you stick along for that. I will say I have been pleasantly wrong on all of my preseason predictions. Michael Wacha is still very valuable, but he's not the most valuable pitcher in the Royals rotation. And my win prediction has been thoroughly blown out of the water.
There's only two of us that are still standing right now. Brian Henry predicted 80 wins, so the next Royals win knocks him out.
Yep.
And then there's me, baby, with my 84. And I'm going to be wrong too.
Yeah, I certainly think so.
I'll just be the least wrong, and I will celebrate that.
We will. What is it? I mean, no, Price is right. You can't go over.
Yes, correct.
Right? Yeah. So I mean, hey, you're next closest guy.
I will be the next contestant on The Price is Right, baby. Yeah.
Hell yeah, let's go. Also, before we get on out of here, we got to talk about Salvi a little bit because, man, he was the one lone bright spot in that Monday game. He went 4 for 4, right?
Well, I really liked that part where Bobby scored from first on a pop-up to right field from Salvi. Made Salvi look good too. I like that.
That's true. That is true. Let's see. He's driven in 25 runs in his last 30 games. Last 30 games, he's slashing 268.
He's the first catcher
491
to get 100 RBIs in a season since like Carlton Fisk or something like that.
Yeah. It's insane. And especially when you consider his age, that puts him in even more elite.
Yeah, first territory. To get 100 RBIs at his age.
Oh, okay,
since Carlton Fisk and one other catcher. He's the third catcher to ever do it.
It's pretty good. Pretty damn good. So hey, that's what the captain does for you, and we absolutely love it. It's he has probably had one of the biggest turnarounds on this Royals team right now. I'm not saying he was pretty sloppy defensively on Monday, like very, very sloppy.
All the catchers have been sloppy with their throws the whole weekend or the whole week. I do not get it. All three stolen bases resulted in throwing errors Monday night, and we had more stolen bases last night where the throws were not close.
Can I put on the tinfoil hat for the first time in a while?
Please put on the tinfoil hat. I do not have an explanation. I'm ready to listen to anything.
Do we remember what happened with the baseballs towards the end of Judge's home run chase? Do you remember that?
They put the ones that with the bounce. Whatever.
Yeah, they put more home run friendly baseballs, especially in Yankee Stadium.
Yeah,
but it's still a change with the baseball. I wouldn't bet against the league doing that again.
That is one of the least unlikely conspiracy theories you've thrown at me.
That makes sense.
Like, I feel like that could actually be what's happened here.
And, unfortunately, it's going to be something that we don't know until well after the fact.
If ever.
Yeah, if ever. But it just shows the margin for error in baseball when just a minor change like that can really change the outcome. But if you're a guy out there and you're used to throwing like something that's weighed and is shaped and flies one way, and then that gets changed, well, that's a big difference. So yep. I think that might be what's going on. But again, that's just my tinfoil hat. Okay, tinfoil hat off. Jeremy, anything before we get on to reviews?
Oh, I feel like we're missing something. I can't remember what it was, so it couldn't have been that important.
I can't think of anything either. So let's go ahead.
Wait, one more time. Tell us about your weekly radio thing.
My gosh. You know how bad I am at plugging myself.
That's why I'm telling you to do it.
All right. Every Wednesday at 2:30 p.m. Central. Yep, Central time. I'll be on with Carrington Harrison on The Drive on 96.5 The Fan. We will be talking about Royals, anything Royals related. I know he has Vern on Fridays, so like that's kind of cool to be alongside Vern in that manner. So I'm very excited, and I really, really appreciate the opportunity from him and his team.
So cool, man. So cool. So you deserve it.
Thank you.
All right, let's go to the reviews.
All right, let's see what I have a stupid review.
Give me a stupid review, Jacob.
It is,
and then I will challenge.
My stupid review is over water, drinking water. And this is me throwing a little bit of shade at Honey, who's within earshot now.
Oh.
Yeah.
Somebody wants to sleep on the couch tonight.
So for our entire relationship, she doesn't like just drinking water. Okay. It was the little lemonade packets. Like she would put 2 in a big jug of water or something like that, just to give it a little lemonade-y flavor. I got her off of that. I got her onto like the healthy version of that, and then I got her onto Propel. All right, at least it has like electrolytes and stuff like that. But you know those Stanley tumblers? Yeah. She will put 3 packets of Propel.
Oh, I've never used the packets. I just bought the bottles. They were gross.
It's a 40-ounce tumbler.
That's only one more than it needs.
And it tastes sour. Like it makes me pucker up. Do you hear her yelling in the background?
Well, that's just further evidence that you shouldn't be drinking. It's self-preservation. She wants you out of her hydration.
You know what? That is a great point, and that would stand up if she drank water consistently. And it really would. So, all in all, because I'm feeling it right now, I had watched on the ship earlier on, and I didn't have my normal amount of water. It's crazy how not drinking just recommended amounts of water or not drinking water at all will kind of throw off your body, because it is naturally what your body needs. So I poke at Honey simply because it's something I can. It's an easy thing to take shots at her about. She's come a long way in our relationship. She really, really has. I appreciate her growth in that. Still a lot more room to grow. Jeremy, I do have to give a disclaimer to our listeners before you begin your review, because you gave me a disclaimer. Disclaimer: there's a little bit of politics coming up, which is timely, I will say, as the presidential debate was last night, and it's been a very, very odd time for political takes in the last 24 hours. So I am turning this on so Honey can hear you talk, and the floor is yours, Jeremy Greco.
All right, let me know when Honey can hear me, because I don't want her to miss any of this. So the first thing I can't hear you anymore, Jacob. You've muted yourself. So the first thing I need to say is I 100% support Honey in putting stuff in her water so that she'll drink more water. I use Circle subscription service so that I will drink more water, because I don't mind the taste of ice water, but I don't drink enough of it on a regular basis. So if you ever get a clip where I'm drinking something, I'm probably drinking from my Circle bottle.
Gotcha. Sorry, that was a dog. Continue.
So, all right. So on to the politics. And I'm going to, as much as I know how to, make this not partisan politics, but I saw this today and I just completely lost my mind for a few minutes. And I told Jacob, have this podcast. I need to soapbox for a minute about this. Please let me. If you have to disown me afterwards and break up the band a la Jack Black, I will not understand. I will take it personally, but that's your right. So Patrick Mahomes, for those of you who are unaware, is part owner of the Kansas City Royals. He is the best quarterback in football. He plays for the Kansas City Chiefs. His girlfriend, or no, excuse me, not girlfriend, wife, Brittany Mahomes, has kind of come out recently on social media as being pro-Trump. And then his best friend, I assume they're best friends. They've got to be best friends, right?
Right.
They're taking photos where they look like they're in a made-for-TV Disney movie where a cat and a dog are turned into humans. You've got to check that out on Twitter. It is an amazing photo. I'm sorry I'm off track again. His best friend's girlfriend, Taylor Swift, made a very public and detailed announcement of her support of Kamala Harris after the debate last night.
Mm-hmm.
So reporters went to Patrick Mahomes, who has not famously, but maybe should have been famously, refused to take a stand on either end of the spectrum at any point, which probably makes him just better at being popular than me. And that's fair, because I feel like I have to take my stand. I feel like it's important to use whatever platform I have in that way. So you all, even though I'm going to try and make this not partisan, you all know where I stand, I think, at this point.
Yeah.
I think that's been pretty clear. But so Patrick Mahomes they tried to ask him a question about, like, Brittany and Taylor have been pretty close. What's the deal that's going on? Oh, I figured out that thing we wanted to talk about that we forgot. I'm so good at this, Jacob. I'm so good at this.
Stop dodging it. Just talk about it, man.
All right, so somebody tried to ask Patrick Mahomes about politics, and he dodged the question. They were trying to, figure out, like, where do you stand? And he was like, listen, this is a quote. Whenever I'm hanging out with whoever, I'm not thinking about their political views. I'm thinking about the people and how they treat other people. Which is plus media management response. Like, that is the response you want to give when you don't want to give an answer and you want everyone to feel like you're just calling for unity. You just want everyone to get along. And, like, A+ work right there, man. Whoever his PR advisor is, maybe it's himself, just terrific work over there, okay? But here's the thing. Politics are how we treat other people. Who you vote for directly affects other people. That statement stands on its own. people want to pretend that I'm just voting for this guy because he's going to give me a tax break. Well, if that guy also supports the murder of cats or dogs or whatever, he wants to murder all the animals in the world. He says all the animals have to go. Well, you have now supported, you are now complicit in worldwide animal murder. That's how that goes. I know that you didn't want that, and maybe you hate that aspect of that candidate, but that's what you just supported. That's what you just helped to come about by voting for that in order to get your tax break. You said it is more important for me to get a tax break than it is to preserve the lives of all the animals in the world, of any of the animals in the world. Okay, so politics are how we treat people. And that doesn't mean that there's no room to have debate sometimes, but in the current political climate, there is a flawed candidate who has policies I do not agree with, and there is a candidate who actively wants to harm other people. And when you vote for the candidate who actively wants to harm other people because you think it will somehow benefit you, you're saying anything that this candidate has said that they want to do in order to harm other people is okay by me as long as I get my tax breaks. And that's not okay. That's not an okay way to treat people. That's the same. It's literally the same thing. I know it doesn't feel the same, which is why people like Patrick Mahomes can say these things. It's literally the same thing as if someone said, hey, I need you to look away from police murdering people. I need you to look away from that. Police murder people sometimes. I need you to not complain about that, and I will give you $500. All you have to do is not complain about it. And if I put it that way, I don't think anybody thinks, oh, well, I just watched a cop murder someone and I'm going to take $500 to keep my mouth shut, and that's okay. I don't think take cops out of it, because that also makes it political. I just watched someone murder someone, and I've been offered a $500 bribe to never talk about it. Is it okay for me to take a $500 bribe? I don't think anyone will say yes. I don't think so, but that's what you're doing. When you say, I'm okay if this candidate causes harm to other people, causes other people to die, causes other people to suffer life-altering consequences because I want a tax break. You're not just voting for the tax break. You're voting for everything that comes with that. And where I will also say that there is some room is that, for example, if you vote for either Kamala Harris or Donald Trump, you are voting for a candidate who currently plans to continue supporting the genocide being perpetrated by the Israelis against the Palestinians. Both candidates support that. So I would argue that in that case, a vote for Kamala Harris is not a vote for that. A vote for Donald Trump is not a vote for that, because you cannot avoid that. There are some things in life, there are lessers of evils. There are some things in life you can't avoid. I get a lot of my philosophical leanings. I'm going way so long. I hope that everyone has turned away, because this is just so long now. You don't need all this. Just take that first statement and go, good, thanks, leave. But I take a lot of philosophy from the TV show, The Good Place. Great TV show. Maybe that's what my review should have been. The Good Place. That would have been a good review. A great TV show. You should watch it. It's not perfect. Not everything about it is ideal, but it has a lot of food for thought in that show. And one of the things they talk about is like, well, is everyone a villain because like they tried to order flowers and that's a good thing, but it's outweighed by the fact that the trucks drive and that ruins the environment to bring you the flowers and blah, blah, blah. And now it's a bad thing and you're all going to hell. Like there are things we can't avoid. We all live in a society. Yep. So you have to do the lessers of evils. Now, what I will say is that if you are opposed to the genocide happening, that you, and I hope you are, I hope that's not political, I hope you're opposed to genocide, just as a general rule, that whoever you vote for, you should be in contact with them and their other elected officials whatever way that takes for you, whether that's sending emails, whether that's making calls, whether that's writing letters, whether that's signing petitions, whether that's showing up for protests and saying, stop doing that. So it's not a get out of jail free card to say, well, both candidates support that, so it doesn't matter who I vote for. I mean, you still have to do whatever you can to mitigate that harm. I think that's important too. So I will finally jump off of the soapbox because I think Jacob is just about to like lose his mind. I'm so sorry, Jacob, that this is so long.
You're fine.
And I just want to say that politics are how we treat people. So if all you really care about is how people treat people, then you care about their politics too. And that's it.
There you go. All right. Thank you for sharing that, Jeremy. I do appreciate it. I'm not just saying that because this has been a weird 24 hours. I don't know if folks actually listened to that debate last night. That was a painful iteration.
I can't stand the debates. I didn't watch the debate.
Unfortunately, I was rude to Honey, and I put it on the TV, and we watched it from beginning to end.
It wasn't rude. It was important to watch.
Do you hear?
Yes. So now Honey's mad at me. I get it.
It wasn't rude. It was important to watch.
Yeah.
Thank you. He was nice enough to get me hella high first.
I mean, well, that's fair.
That's
about the only way I could have survived that.
There are certain like it was like a bumper. It was a bumper on the debate car. Okay, we needed that little bumper. All right. But on that note, we are going to get on out of here. The first pitch of the game is here in about an hour, so hopefully grab a bite to eat and go watch the Royals win a series in New York. I am Jacob Milham. He is Jeremy Greco. If you want to follow us or if you want to yell at us for our takes, you can do so on Twitter. And our links are down in the podcast description below. Thank you for your time, y'all. And until next time, go Royals.